I seriously look like?
If anything, I think financially support. I think also realizing and buying into the data that tells us that urban farms or urban agriculture or agriculture in a city setting is the lungs of a community, literally. If we're thinking about the highway, the roads that turn into super highways during rush hour. And it's also a place of refuge. So there's a lot of data that shows, that's out there, that shows the positive impacts that ag at this size and bigger can have in the lives of folks that live here in our city. So I think it's that. It's not that difficult. I think it's funding, and I think it's also really diving into the data that really tells you the impact, the positive impact this does for food shelves, what it does for mental health, for our youth and parents and families that get to put their hands in soil after a busy day at work or a busy day of life. So there's a lot of positive impact data that I think people either forget about or choose not to dive into. It really tells you a story of how important this is and how it should be supported, whether city, state, or federal level.
One of the questions I keep asking, because I think it's really useful as we build infrastructure, is what do you think the kind of infrastructure is that's necessary to build and what you have here, and then maybe also what you would like to have here?
Yeah, I mean, as you can see, there's three lots behind us that burned down as pretty pure examples of disinvestment, historical disinvestment in our cities, where folks that could have been living in two of their homes were vacant. That then led to people choosing to live in there, shelter in there, and that caused three homes to burn down. So we need more support to be able to start growing at lots that are now empty. That addresses food insecurity, but also, if anything, support some of the families here that are under financial stress of being able to stay in their homes. This is one way to kind of interrupt that cost, to be able for them to grow their own food locally, and also that these food get into food shelves like they do through the work we do in the community. Having a place to process our veg, again, having more spaces to continue to grow, just like how we support the growers across the street from us. I think that is not that complicated. It's very simple. It's access to space, continue to grow, to support, if anything, the cleanup of soil. So if something burnt there, we're saying 3 to 4 years, we need to have the soil set. But we need to introduce things into the soil so it's ready to be grown in, or that we can build raised beds in there. So having that financial support to be able to build the health of our soil, help us, if anything, help build the health of our community members to the food we're growing there. So I think it's that. It's infrastructure, being able to have funding to support us to expand further of urban farming. It's to have places where we can process our veg. And if anything, at the other end of the chain, is to support food shelves and other spaces to be able to buy product from us. I think that's the biggest deal, that they're buying product from us at market value, in the fact that that supports us, so they also need the support to be able to have funding to buy that product from us. So it doesn't just happen at one end, at the producing part or the growing part, it also happens at the area of purchasing the product or the vegetables, organic vegetables that we have here. So I think it's a lot of that. And I think it's also really taking, again, serious the education of teaching our young adults and our youth of how important the knowledge of growing traditionally is important. I think that's also an investment we need to see more of.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, especially you have a really visible site and you have a lot of programming, so I'm curious, for that education or for connecting people, so many people want to grow food or want to access food, what have you found works in terms of that, like, person-to-person infrastructure to say, hey, this is available to you, you could be part of it?
Yeah, I think it's showing up. I think something I like to say is that it's important to be consistent and compassionate. And if we're not consistent and we're not interacting with people compassionately and humanizing folks that walk in here with those struggles that they carry on their shoulders, I think if we can do that first, then it makes the space more welcoming. It makes the space to invite people to have conversations that we had just yesterday, like non-complicated, non-structured conversations about our traditional understandings of how our abuelitos or our grandparents taught us directly or indirectly how to grow food. I mean, that happened naturally with some of the growers and then some of the community members that were just here visiting that don't even grow with us. And so allowing those things to happen naturally, I think really sets precedent, I think, for the growers and those that visit the space of how important a space like this is. Like we always say is that growing food is the last thing we do, it's building community empowerment is the first thing we do. And that was just an example of 2 days ago that happened here with our growers and community members. And so being able to program that or have funding for that to happen on a regular basis, on a schedule with kids and youth and families, I think is the further support we need to further our educational, urban farm educational kind of aspects of the work we do here. But I think trying not to overcomplicate it and just having spaces like this are important.
So I'm just having a presence, like being present right here and allowing people to come to it as they're drawn to it.
Yeah. And the draw is, I'm learning how to grow food, or I'm learning that we're now growing papelón or epazote, something that I can't grow at my home because I live in an apartment building, or I'm afraid of my soil. And when those things come up, then we talk about, okay, how can we get a bed to your home with organic soil and some seedlings? And so we kind of do that as part of the learning that they get to take home, even though they may be growing here with us. We provided last growing season, I think 18 different beds, soil, and seedlings to community members here and in St. Paul. And we were able to provide the beds, soil, and the plants to, I think, 18 families, if I remember correctly, or 12 families. So that's something we did because we had the funding and we had the support at the time, that we would love to continue because there's still a need for it. Like people can't really come here, or even now, since there's a lot of concern around safety, people want to be close to home. So that's something we would like to continue to do, is provide a bed, organic soil, and seedlings that they can grow at home. It's important to continue to try to do.
Could you tell me about the people who are actively involved here? Like, I think you have like maybe 15 regular growers and then also who are the people that take the educational workshops and things like that?
Yeah, so we have our families that grow here with us. They're mostly Latino, BIPOC community members that have either a historical relationship to growing food, either through their parents or them personally, something they've been involved in for a long time. And then on top of that, we have supporters and partners with, Little Earth, the 2 neighborhood associations in the area, St. Paul Church, and other organizations that bring in their community members when we do medicinal tours, where we offer a tour with knowledge keepers of the medicine that's in any typical yard or the medicine we're actively growing. So those are folks that live near and far, but are connected to the Jardín Urbano movement or the food justice movement that participate in our conversations. So we'll either we usually hold 2 of those a year, and then we'll do some learning around bed building, or talk about why we need to grow in beds to reduce our exposure to heavy metals in an urban setting with growing food. So those are folks that kind of expand the general neighborhood here of the Phillips proper, and then folks outside of that. with our growers and typically will either lead the conversations or, if anything, participate heavily in the conversations. So we have a lot of really knowledge folks around the medicinal properties of the food we grow. And just like we're hosting an urban farm tour this Saturday, we'll expand our connection to other neighbors with other partners of urban farmers spaces in the community.
Yeah, you mentioned, I think, like NACDI, East Phillips, and then Cadieux.
Oh yeah, so the Midtown Phillips,
Yeah.
and then East Phillips Neighborhood Association.
Okay.
And then, so Central is another partner that we worked with in the past that I think we'll probably get more involved as we reached out to them earlier this spring on our project to do bio bricks or bio kind of knowledge gathering we're going to be doing here at the spot with a partnership with the university to do create bio bricks to study and to figure out if we can use those instead of lumber.
Oh, like made out of fungi or something?
So it's a way to kind of interrupt all the trees we're losing to climate insecurity.
Okay.
So before going to an incinerator or landfill, they're disrupting that flow to then cook it down to be able to produce material to make brick. To make brick out of. Yeah. So it's a way to kind of interrupt that a little bit, but also learn what Cadieux and other urban farmer partners on using that brick either as pathways. We are definitely going to build 3 compost bins out of them. So.
And the 12 or whatever number of families, are they mostly close?
Some of them, yeah, half of them live, fairly close. I think the furthest one is South Hot. So they're fairly close. Some just live across the street, some just live down the street. So they're in the geographic area here. A lot of the folks that come to our events kind of span out outside of the area. I think we had somebody from, someone from far away. I was like, how'd you learn about this? I was like, I saw it online. So we do get folks from outside the metro to attend our events sometimes.